Good evening, everyone. My research proposal is titled Systematic Review of Ethnographic Tools for Measuring Acculturation and the Validity of Acculturation Strategies. Acculturation is basically defined uh, as the change in cultural attitudes that people have because of contact between two cultures. The resulting stress that is faced by the migrant is called as acculturative stress. My research proposal is working to do a review of existing literature on acculturation and acculturation strategies. The gap in the research that I found is that oftentimes when researchers are studying acculturation, they do not take into factor cultural factors such as access to food in the sense of ingredients native to their home culture or the culture that they're coming from, access to other community members from from the same culture, and and access to third places are places where the community members meet and they have conversations and get to like basically it's a community space where a person can feel comfortable in their culture. The gap that I was finding in when I was doing the research for this project was that when researchers are talking about acculturation strategies, they talk about it in abstract forms. Like, for example, they'll say assimilation is when a person fully immerses themselves into the new culture and then alienate their old culture. And so they talk about it in abstracts that way without really getting into specifics of how these cultural factors play a role in their acculturation. And I definitely think that these cultural factors play a big role in the acculturation strategy that a person chooses, and it directly has an outcome on if the person feels integrated or part of their and if a person how accultured they are to their new community, or what is their how do they blend both their ethnic native culture and the new culture that they're interacting with, and what strategies come out and how do they handle acculturative stress. Um, so because this is a systematic review, selection for the selection, we articles of review is chosen based on accessibility, if it's on a public or a library database, and how easy it is to get them. If they're in English, it was a big deal, or and if they were in English for the research material, but also a crucial thing was to see if the actual test was available in English and or the native language of the ethnographic group that they were studying in the article. A culture, and if acculturation was a primary outcome of interest that they were studying in the article. Um, we're doing these to understand how the articles that are presented interact with acculturation, and how they arrive at the definition of acculturation, how they arrive at the strategies they advocate for or they find in the data, and if they are accounting for external cultural factors as a player in their articles. The study, I'm also curious to see if there's any overlap between articles and common factors associated with acculturation. Other terms of search that were interested in expanding the study to is also acculturative stress and intergenerational conflict, because different generations of immigrants can have different views of how they deal with acculturation and their relationship with their ethnic identity. So I'm very curious to see how what the research is saying on if they advocate for a particular strategy, or if not, then why, and how they how cultural factors that are not distinctly laid out because they differ from community to community, how they're accounted for within these studies and what relationship they have. And also, I'm curious to understand what ethnic communities are studied the most, and if some are omitted, why is it omitted? Is it because there's no access to the community, or if there's no reliable data available on said community, and why a community is chosen as opposed to why someone is not chosen is something also that is within the scope of research for this paper. And I'm very curious and interested to see how this pans out. Thank you for listening to me ramble on for around 6 minutes. I hope it makes sense, and all the best with your own research proposals and such. I look forward to reading them all. Thank you and have a good night.